Hello, everyone. I believe we should be on now. Just making sure that I can hear you before I continue speaking. Thank you for being here.
Hey, I want to show you something.
Once we get past the ad, thank you for being here. Hello, everyone. Okay, we're on live, and you all can hear me. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Such an honor to be here with you here on 11 1. So 11 1. So 3 ones. It is such a beautiful day of a renewal, as we know what the number one represents. Okay, and today is going to be an energy and a galactic update. We're going to be sharing more information on what's been occurring from this past month that just occurred in October, and what is to occur coming up in November in this month. I am excited to be here. In case you don't know who I am Aurora. I am the founder of Rising Phoenix, the founder of A.U.R.A, Angelic Universal Regression Alchemy. Rising Phoenix Aurora is my website and my channel. Lots of energy and lots of information going through today through me, especially because of this date. So basically, it's getting a little bit hard. So you all might be feeling that it's getting a little bit hard to concentrate on one specific thing. So I'm just gonna keep placing myself in that theta brainwave, still being conscious and speaking to you all about this information. So I am excited to be here. And thank you for your support as always. And if you are looking to find out what are some of the services I offer besides the regression, the A.U.R.A regressions that you can find here on YouTube, there is a playlist, over 100 of them, where people have lovingly shared their stories of A.U.R.A. You can find it there. And then you could also find my services under my website, Rising Phoenix Aurora, where we offer Akashic reading, Reiki for kids. We have that is new, and it's so exciting. That class officially does start this month. Last month was a free trial. So if you're still thinking of joining, definitely join us. We would love to have you there. And then we do also alchemy classes throughout different forms. And you can support this channeling as well as any of our videos that we post on YouTube. You can support them through Patreon under my Rising Phoenix Aurora website. See, I'm so scattered. Rising Phoenix Aurora on Patreon. You can support it through the $4 tier or any of the tiers to support this. So thank you. Whew, so where did we get started? Oh my goodness. So let's talk a little bit about October really quick, coming to some conclusions there, and then we'll move into what after the October energy updates, then we'll go ahead and move into some of what we discovered and we were able to finally come forth into awareness for you all in helping your growth and understanding. These last two auras have been phenomenal for us in a understanding of the oneness of creation itself. Okay. Now, through the different channelings, we've talked about the different beings that we speak, the benevolent beings that speak through, have given us those pieces, but it really feels like this through we're entering a phase where we are putting these pieces of the puzzles together. Now we're able to bring them forth together. So if you have any questions, feel free to add them here. Minnie and Lily, I believe, they will be on chat and they're gonna keep me updated on them. Okay, so we'll be answering, interacting with you live today in my awake state of mind, of consciousness. Okay, now October, boy, whew, I don't know if any of you experienced this, but oh, I experienced, especially because I'm working with the collective of energies, and you all and everyone is. I had a session today. I had a raw class with him, with a beautiful gentleman today, and he talked about, we were talking. What were we talking about? We were saying, what was this question? It was about, Oh, we're talking about some of the teachings that we talk about to sacred alchemy. We're talking about the sphere and how I use it, and how sometimes at times there could be someone trying to, for example, sending negative energy, whether it's intently or unintently sending it, and some of the ways that I work with how to remove some of that energy. So sometimes when we feel, and it really did happen a lot in October overall, and it also was part of the collective as well. So I was explaining to him, and I'll share this with you all so that you can as well use it. If you don't know what a toroidal sphere, look it up. You can find it under Google. But it is it is a basically two pyramids, one upright, one inverted, upside down, and you are encased within the center of this. Now, what we teach is that we want to spin it. It's important how we spin it. So if you're going to use it, you want to spin the top clockwise inwards to draw in energy. And anytime you teach, as we teach, without harming anyone, so you don't want to be drawing from others' energies. So you'd be drawing from your own infinite source energy, and then you spin the bottom one counterclockwise to expel out negativity. So pyramid at top, clockwise, one, one, one. Send love to the earth, the 13th hour. Send love to the earth. Clockwise, spinning in, drawing in the love light, the infinite source energy that you are, and then counterclockwise, expelling out the negativity that's within you. So something that you can use it for is if you're feeling negative energy within yourself or outside of you, you can actually spin. And I'll give you this particular example. I was feeling negative energy here in my pineal gland, which is not too common, and in the month of October, and the way that I was able to, and it was constant sneezing, uh gushing here with release here in my nose, and it just right before I had my class, and during the process I was like, okay, I'm trying to talk to my student, how am I going to get through this? So I started spinning the toroidal sphere at the bottom counterclockwise. When I started spinning it counterclockwise, what happens is that I directly set an intent that this negative energy that was being sent to, for whatever reason, or the pineal gland was shielding me, cleansing me, protecting me, that it expels out through the bottom of the toroidal sphere at the bottom. So when I was spinning the toroidal sphere at the bottom counterclockwise, I was envisioning the dark energy coming out. And again, you state without harming anyone. And then I typically just have my dragons basically transmute. The fire dragons transmute that energy, that dense energy that's spinning out. And within maybe 3 minutes, I went from, being like teary-eyed, swollen, dripping and sneezing. I went from spinning it counterclockwise and expelling out the negativity out. Imagine it come out of that bottom. Not the toroidal sphere, I'm sorry, I just realized I've been saying toroidal sphere. I meant the merkabah. The merkabah. They just corrected me. They're like, wait a minute, you've been saying the wrong name. I'm sorry, the merkabah is the one with the pyramid at the top and the bottom. But we also teach how to work with the toroidal sphere though. And it was cleared up. I was finally able to talk to my client. And so these are different things that we teach through the alchemy teachings and how to get through everyday life and these densities. So I just wanted to share that story. Oh, and then what he said was, he's like, it seems like you have a lot, going on with you. And I said, well, I am, it's okay. It's something that I lovingly, I'm okay with it, because with every lesson taught and every teaching, it's basically, I take it all as a teaching. And I learn how can I evolve, transcend from this, and not allow, for example, this, dripping to make me cancel this class, to, make me perhaps crabby, lower my vibration, become hateful to whoever or whatever sending me this negative energy. Instead, I was like, okay, I can transmute this because I am a sovereign being and I am an alchemist and everything is energy, therefore it can be healed and transmuted. So looking at ways in life where, okay, for example, this month of October was dense like this, and what were some of the ways that you could go intently into your heart, connecting with your mind, with your pineal gland, and getting some of these answers for yourself, meditating, and the different forms of relaxation and peace, of finding the oneness within you. Now, so this is a story that I share with you. October was really hard because basically, as we talked about prior, it was coming to a completion to all sorts of things. And then the majority of us were coming into an agreement with the collective that we were going to help heal. And it was very strongly for October that we were going to help heal the collective of trauma and the collective of the children, specifically the trauma of the children. So some of you might have had dreams where there was, helping children heal in the collective, and different forms like that. So it was really tough. You could have experienced body pain, chronic pain throughout the body, fevers, not understanding how to, come out of these. So thank you for those of you who experience any type of discomfort in October, because as you overcame it, so did you help overcome. There was one particular that I was talking to them about. I recently was sick a bit and I had to reschedule my sessions. Luckily, I'm able to talk now. And what they explained to me is, Aurora, you made an agreement, not a contract, an agreement that you were going to help those mothers who have children and are suffering of any type of illness, any type of sickness, and then they still have to tend to their children and work and somehow manage to keep their household together. And I was like, okay, well, it's okay that I'm going to be sick for this week, and then I will take that if I am helping a collective of beautiful mothers who are out there working so hard and healing. Okay, so think of ways of that now that you can be assisting as well. Think of those little clues that they give you in dream time and place those pieces together. Okay, so that's October. Whew, I am honestly so glad we're done with that. When we came forth in November, I was celebrating, I was cheering, I was dancing. So we are here on the 111. And as we know, throughout creation, the 111s means new beginnings, new creations, manifestation. Bring forth renewals, new ideas. What can we bring forth? We have a new blank book in front of us, and what are we going to write this month? And it is the most powerful creational number that you can be using in the month of November. So think of ways throughout this month that you do not want to allow for your any distractions that are trying to distract you astray. Really what you're setting up for is a beautiful fruition upcoming for the next year coming up. This is the month. What do you want coming up? And then we come into the next year, right? At the January 1. Again, so bringing forth for, technically, as we spoke into prior channels, is that technically there is 13 months. So coming up towards the end of the, say, 3 weeks of December is technically the 13th month, but we do not unfortunately go through that we don't go through that type of teachings like we used to. So we have to go with what we have right now. So the month of 12 is also the month of the 13. So it's one together, 12 and 13. And what beauties have you been holding yourself back from by your unself-belief, by your fears, and what is it that you can create? Think of ways that you can let go of what no longer serves you so that you can bring forth lightness to your essence and all that is around you. 111, manifest and create. Okay, so we have that month coming up, and let me see if you all have any questions on that. Okay. And then with that, really quick, I wanted to address a email I received from a supposed light worker. She said she was a light worker. And I wanted to bring it to your attention that this email was saying that it was all love and light. That's interesting. And they were saying, in my last life, I was sick. That's why I was, like, if you all heard it, I didn't want to cancel because I felt they told me it needed to be done and it was okay. And this person emailed me and said that for me to blow my nose, it's funny, and that I sounded like a man when they spit out some, like, when they spit out, that's what she compared it. I was like, okay, that stuff that comes out in Espanol, we call it gargajo. I don't know what they call it in English. So discharge, I guess, from the throat. And then they also said that I needed to put my dogs away. So, that is, I know that you all, the majority of you, appreciate these challenges as we do these. We do these in service to others, and we do them freely. And it was interesting to see how some of you can take such a beauties out of this, and then someone can tell me to put my dog away, because that is, just to explain to you, dogs are very important in our lives, or even cats as well. But dogs basically are embodiments of dragons. As you all know, I work with dragons. So in other words, you're telling me to put my dragon away, which is kind of funny. And my dogs, actually, when we're doing the aura regressions, they actually, the majority of the time, they just sleep the whole time. They sleep at my feet, they sleep next to me, and they are actually in the dream realm helping me energetically. So some of those sessions that you're seeing, the last ones where we healed billions, millions, thousands of people in creation, they were right next to me, and they were helping me hold that frequency of love light so that I could be able to assist that client entering into the theta brainwave. So they are very important, not just to me, but to the client, and they should be important throughout creation. So if you hear some dog paws running around, don't feel annoyed by it. If you hear some rustling moving around, maybe a bark here and there, don't be annoyed by it, because they're actually sensing. And last Friday, I had a little boy that came to me as we talked about it, and one of my dogs, who I'm training to be a healer, as we were doing the Reiki on him, as I would say, for example, this child has negative energy here at the top of the head. The angels are starting to remove it. My puppy would go on there with the child and would try to give it comfort. And at the minute I would say, for example, he has negative energy here, he would go to the child's head and sniff it and put his snout on it, like he was telling us there's negative energy. And the parents were like, wow. And then I sense, I was saying, okay, now they're removing the excess and negative energy from the feet. There's some blockages there. And guess what? Again, he jumps on the ottoman. He goes to the little boy, 5-year-old little boy. He was so adorable, and smells the feet again. And the dad is like, oh my God, look at that. He's telling us now about it. And he was just in tune with me. So they're working with me energetically, spiritually, physically. So you all can understand why it is that I am an animal lover and I have them around me, is not to disturb you. But I know the majority of you understand that. But it's interesting how, because I am here and I'm always standing in great love for you all, and for humanity, how a kind heart who's giving love can be taken for, at times, for granted, or can be taken like, oh, as a pushover, or as one of the quotes that I wrote is that, a kind heart, what I specifically wrote, and I shared it everywhere. Here, that way, it's right here. So the bravest of hearts chooses to remain open in a world that views its kindness as a weakness. The bravest of hearts chooses to remain open in a world that views its kindness as weakness. So not just because you see someone who is operating of love, Don't think that they have a that is a weakness. Treat them just as significant as another who might be not operating from a infinite of love. For we all know that I am not a pushover. So yeah, wanted to address that just to have appreciation and gratitude for what we are sharing for you every Friday, as it takes a lot of energy and thought form to be here with you all. Okay, so thank you for listening to that. And also heart awareness, because this person was actually saying that they were talking from a loving kindness to help me out. So then heart discerning, is this person really speaking from a heart, or are they trying to, you know, um send negative energy, infringe upon the thought form, perhaps send negative energy to my beautiful dogs, that stuff like that. Understand that everything that you write or you create with wordings or thoughts, it's something that you're sending out into the world, and that is not love and kindness. Okay. All right. Beautiful. So let's go into some of these questions that we have had here. Okay, so let's go into some of these aura sessions. Wow, have they been spectacular? As you all know, some of you who come to me, you're like, Aura, I noticed that when you have your aura sessions, it's like you know what type of questions you're to ask, and then you seem to also know more than what we're sharing. And let me see what I can share. These pieces that are given to you all have been shared with me, and we're waiting for we're waiting for right that particular time that is going to help the collective, whether it's through a aura hypnosis or a testimonial or any type of sessions that we share, or the live channelings. And they're placing them together beautifully, and this is the raw, and helping us understand the oneness in creation and this matrix system, and how to really evolve from it, from our heart portal that we always talk about, the love, the above percentile of the 51, that the only way to graduate, remove ourselves from this, or from this AI matrix that is controlled by AI, negative technology, is through the heart portal. So this is our goal. I am here to help you because I am your biggest believer, and I know that you can release yourself from this constant recycle of rebirth. You've seen through our hypnosis sessions where if we don't take care of it one life, we come back and we take care of it in this life. And we're right now, it's like we're going through all our past lives and sometimes our future lives too, but we're going through. And which brings us to, why is it that we are here in this third and fourth dimension and able to help so many throughout creation? Why is that? Why would our aid through hypnosis or meditation or any type of healing modality where we are focusing on oneself or the collective, why would that aid so profoundly throughout humanity? And the reason is, specifically, let's talk about those auras that we had, where we healed a tremendous amount of people throughout creation. And we'll call them people because there are all sorts of people, animal form people, insect toy people, people with that look like us but taller and no hair, and aliens. Now, why is it that it would be so significant? Now, the reason is because we are in the lowest density. So if you could imagine us within the lowest density, healing a energy for ourselves or others in this density, in the lowest density that there is in creation, and what that can manifest, what it does, it basically, since you're healing it here in this lower density, it goes into the fourth, fifth, sixth, and it ripples out throughout creation itself. And by the time it goes through these dimensions of the 4th, which is more of the bridge entryway to the 5th, 6th, 7th. It is amplified. So it goes to the example. Let's say we go to the 3rd, 4th, we're into the 5th. It has doubled. Now it goes into the 6th dimension. This healing that just has manifested, it has doubled once more, in becoming into a triple, and then a 4th fold, and so on and so on. So if you can imagine, it is tremendous. And when you're reaching these higher vibrations of dimensions, it is profound, because we are no longer holding, say, the ego, because the ego is the ego within the human consciousness to be operating here, is particularly specifically here in the 3rd dimension, in this particular earth, as there is many types of forms in throughout existence of different types of earths. Okay, now let's see. Okay, so let's see if you have any questions on that. Try to explain it as clearly as possible. Okay. Michael says we are rock stars in the universe. That we are. That we are rock stars. Okay, I don't see any questions on that, but I'll keep an eye. Okay, so then from there, we talk to further understand is the 12 elders that we talk to are basically formations of representations of the elders. Okay, you guys understood that. Good. So they are representations of the elders. So let's go back to the 13th dimension when we're all one in this beautiful consciousness of infinite love, right? Then we go to the 12th dimension. Then we have the breakdowns of the seraphim angels we talked about, okay, in the 12th dimension. And then from there, then they start sprouting the fractals of all the different races. And as we've seen through that specific beautiful aura we had, where they talked about the 12 elders speak about why many different topics, but specifically why were reptilians created, right? Why? Because we know that we've been in their control for seems like an infinite amount of time. And looking at time itself, it's like we talked about in our last channeling how it could be a month here, but from beyond, it could be really a year. In actuality, they explained even further to me. They even showed me that even a day could seem like a year. It fluctuates. There's no exact time, because remember, time does not exist. So for example, that last 2 months for me specifically, honestly, have felt for 6 months. Do you ever feel that you're entering this time warp, and that it really does feel like it's been a lot longer? So because time itself doesn't exist, as we know, we're all operating linear. So understanding that point of view and how much work we could do from beyond the veil when we are such in a slow, we're like snails, turtles, going little by little. And why is that? Why is that we're like turtles and snails here? Let's talk about that. The reason is because it gives us more time and energy to focus on a specific trauma, whether it's this life or another. It gives us an extended amount of time where we would have to say rush through this, and then we pass away through past lives, and then we never got to quite heal it. So it stretches out that time for us to be able to go into depth and detail to truly manifest it and heal it for oneself. Okay, now, so let's talk about that. Now, we've talked about how these, so I'll give you some more information of what I know about the 12 elders. From there, though, we had the 2 past channelings where we talked, I'm going to talk about some things that they didn't quite share. Okay, so from there, we have the angelics that created, right, the races. and then the races themselves became creator beings themselves and manifested and created universes, galaxies, planets, help create this. And when it became that through quantum physics, it became like a ripple where it went into creation itself. Ripples, 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 ripples. Like they talked about, like that fan, you remember, y'all? That paper fan, and how when you fold it, it becomes almost one, the folds of a paper fan, and then you open it up, and then you realize that, whoa, there's all these different realities and dimensions and planets that are coexisting all right here over one another, working to one another. And understanding that, okay, so with the 12 elders, the 13th key, the 13th number would be the divine mother. So that's where she falls into. She's the number 13th, and then she has her beautiful children, the as they call themselves, the angelics, brothers and sisters, her children, who are the 12. And then there's councils under those and councils under those, and so on. Okay, now they view this all as equals, and they are helping creation itself remove itself from the pain, because unfortunately we do not just suffer pain here. You have watched some sessions either through my aura regression or through other perhaps regressions where a person, whoever's in a regression, has incarnated and they've gone to a past life or a future life where they are an alien somewhere, and something unfortunately bad has happened to them, something um harmful trauma has happened to them. So understanding that there is duality throughout this existence is set for in this dimension, it is at the heaviest and most dense and most hard, dreadful. Okay, now with that, every single angelic has a legion. So Raphael has a legion of healers of the green ray. Michael has the blue rays of protection, and then Gabriel would have that light blue of communication throughout the universe. And they have legions and councils, and then they branch them out. Okay, so then when these councils create in different parts of the universe, in different clusters of stars, different galaxies, they send out a council. So a council is chosen per galaxy. So let's talk about Andromeda, because we've been talking about Andromeda a lot. And that council that we talked about was in Andromeda, and it was a representation of them. But then you go to, say, Sirius, and there will be another council there, and there will be a representation again of the councils of 12. But then there are also being councils of 9, councils of 7, and so on. Now, again, beautiful representations throughout. And they have laws throughout the universe that they are overseeing, that we've talked about. So this is where those 13 keys that we talked about come into play. So the law of free will, where we don't overstep anybody's boundaries, infringe upon them. We honor their free will, and no matter what choice they're making, whether it's a positive or a negative controlled choice, we honor them and we send them love. It doesn't mean that we're just going to be like, all every man for themselves, good luck with your choice. It means that we can send them love, and perhaps we can give them a little bit of guidance if we can, if if expressions come to our realization. And this is the you could say the game that we are playing throughout the universe. We are going through these different clusters, incarnating into these different galaxies. We'll call them galaxies, as that's what we understand. And then we are experiencing and experimenting what we can be throughout creation, and how we can grow when we become the wholeness of ourselves in the different dimensions, higher realms. Okay. So let's see if you guys have any questions on that. And then let's see, check out specifically. Okay. Don't see anything here. You guys got some good questions though here that we have saved. So we're going to go into, get it ready. We're going to go into some important information that we have never gone into. Okay. All right. I don't see any there. Okay. So going back now, so one of the questions that we have saved is how can we assist in unity conscious of Gaia and best purging of energy and transmuting it for higher good? Okay. Now this is kind of a very big question because we are all different and we are all yet reflections of one another, but yet so beautifully different from one another. What one thing could be for another, it could be for different for another person. So let's see if what they'll tell me. And as we're talking, I'm just allowing for the galactics, to give me information because I can telepathically talk to them, and that's how we do every day. This is how we plan every channeling. I talk to them. This is who you can say my guides are, and really everyone's guides are in this creation. But this is who I'm talking to know what I'm going to speak to you guys about. Well, what's going to come up next? Who's going to come channeling next? And by the way, I got to tell you guys don't want to miss the next couple channelings. They're going to be really beautiful. We're going into more of, we're going to go, like we mentioned, how we channeled Dramadan. We're going to go into some of these places that we've been wondering about, these different, I'm not going to say any names. I don't want to, it want be a surprise. Different clusters of constellations that we're going to go into. We're going to be able to get more details about these different places, and we're going to bring more unity of this oneness, this unity consciousness that this question is talking about. So understanding that the unity consciousness, it all begins with understanding that we are as different as we can be, yet we are still the same. And first of all, it starts out with not judging, not hating. You can, for example, read energy. Absolutely. Read energy, whatever's, if it's being shown to you by your higher self, then it is readable for you. Okay. But what we're talking about is judging. We talked about this in the past, judging like in an intent and creation of creating gossip, hate, or envy, jealousy. That is judgment. Now there is also the judgment of reading, which we talked about. So viewing everything and reading everything throughout your life, and the use in existence, and understanding that they are just as, for example, that being in the 8th dimension, that being there in the 8th dimension which is a very special, by the way, reminds me of a dream I had. In the 8th dimension, it is like a so hard to explain this. So within the 8th dimension, once you reach the 8th dimension, it's like they're showing me like not only in the 13th dimension do you start, but in the 8th dimension, you start collecting some of those fractals of you. Even more so. It's like an amplified, an infinity, right? Because the number 8 means infinity. Viewing, a infinity of viewing of oneself and creation. And it is, you start becoming whole, more and more whole as you go up and higher to the collective of the oneness of the 13th dimension. I hope I explained that good. It's so hard to explain what they sense, because typically when we talk about, when I was a little girl, I didn't understand why people wanted me to talk. I was like, wait, you all can read my, my frequency. So beyond this place, we are frequency. We communicate and talk to one another, express to one another, communicate through frequency. And this is how we tell whether there is something that is positive polarized or negative polarized. What does it mean? And how we read. Basically, we have a senses within us, glands within us, just like we have our 7 major glands here, that place these different frequencies into a reading of sorts, like a chart. And then we can read them, whether, say, someone's being dishonest. We can read by a frequency, dishonesty. Somebody's negative polarized. We can read that negative polarized frequency. Someone is, operating of extreme beautiful love. We can once more read that frequency within the charts that exist within our structure of our cosmic DNA and universal constructs. Okay. Now, so we try to give you different ways that you can put these together. And understanding that, for example, when you think of something that's harmful or negative or fear, or you're worried about something, why are you thinking of that? What is the cause to that? And where you figure out what's the cause. Is it something that I need to heal within me? Is it something that is being infringed upon from that TV or the phone or the dark towers we talked about last time? Is it being infringed upon? Figuring out, you are your biggest reader. You know who you are. Okay. So when you start, you can say deciphering the you, because it starts with you. Everything starts with you. It starts with self-love, self-acceptance, self-recognition. So many of us, we go through this programming and where we love everyone so much, but yet we forget to love ourselves and we forget to accept ourselves. But understanding that it starts first with us, and then we can understand the world around us and how it works for experience and growth. Understanding, instead of, say, pointing the finger or being mad at this or frustrated at this, understanding that yes, this occurred. So for example, what I talked about at the beginning, where there was some negative energy being sent to me, I was feeling the pain and going, I could have been mad. I could have been like, I'm gonna put a mirror up and boop, right back to you. Now you figure out how to transmute that really dense negative energy. But of course, I did not. So understanding that, how do we react? Every single thing that we do is a reaction and a ripple throughout time. So when we decide to do something like that, then that's what's that going to manifest and create. Perhaps it might not be something that you have to transmute or heal in this time. Maybe you're gonna, figure that out in the 6th dimension with this being or energies that we're sending this to you. Maybe you'll figure it out then. There's always growth through all the dimensions, but every dimension that we go up, though, is love, 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 love. However, there is that AI that is throughout the universe itself that we talk about, that we're trying to heal, transmute out of this universe itself of love. Okay. It's so hard when when I'm trying to speak to you all, because it has to go through like a translation through me and understanding where I can actually make it understandable for you and, for within our human consciousness, or even understandable for me. Okay. So there were several different ways. Unity and oneness and consciousness is understanding all that I mentioned. And then let me see if there's anything else they want to add. I'll give you an example. I was talking to a beautiful mother yesterday at I was at school volunteering to help out for a celebration. And the mother, who wasn't really awakened, she was partially awakened. She was talking to me and she was telling me how, even though she sees people who are going through struggles and pain, or they're really angered or frustrated, they're taking their frustrations, anger to the world, out on the world, that she said she doesn't hold it against them, because you never know what it is that they're going through or what it was that went through. Now, then I gave her this example, and I love that she could understand that, even though she was just partially awakened. So this is where we learn how to have this unity consciousness. There was a time in the past, and I will tell you, there was a child that in a school near my town had actually taken their life. And what happened was that now this is creating, and it had to do with bullying, right? It had to do with bullying in the school. Now, all the parents throughout this town, you can sense it, you can feel it. Or also you hear, through parents as well, they don't want their child to go to that school, for example, because that child took their life because of bullying. Now, I could tell you that that child came to me after they had passed away, because of the strong love light that I hold. The child was walking, and they were walking in the street, and they were barefoot, and they were lost, and they were dirty and just lost soul. Okay, so this is why we work with energies and entities, why we work with entities with so much love. And he came to me and he told me his story. He told me that it wasn't just a bullying, it was actually also people throughout his life, throughout perhaps family, through people he met, did not understand him and received some kind of abuse. I won't go into detail, but some kind of abuse that caused for him. And plus, he was a gifted child. He was sensitive. He was empathic. He could sense energies around him. He could sense the densities within, perhaps. We don't understand how much a school environment could be hard for a child. A child that is sensitive, a school environment could be the hardest thing that they can go throughout life. You have to understand this. It hurts. Oh, goodness. It's just, oh, my heart. There's a sensitive child that feels and senses energy around them. They have to sense the teacher's energy. They have to sense the students' energies, the entities, the ghosts that are probably walking around, energies, the principals, the staffs. They're sensing it all. And how does this child get through their day, even learning the programming that's going on in the schools? How do they get through the day learning those teachings? How could they? So that's where we come into understanding as grandparents, as parents, as aunts, as uncles, as fathers. We come into these roles where, how can I assist my child going to a public place like a school, or even like a restaurant or public place, period, a grocery store? How can I assist them? And this is where we learn these teachings, and why we teach you all these beautiful teachings, so you can teach them to your children, to help this existence and this density become bearable, enough bearable for them. It is hard. It is a hard place to live in when you are a kind heart and sensitive to to the energies around you. But the child, going back to the child, we helped them transform into light, and he did pass on. And we had to help him with the trauma. We use the angels, we use Phoenix Fire energies to help him transmute because he was too heavy. He could not, he was stuck, he was anchored here and he could not leave. So we help him transform that into light. So understanding, going back to the mother that I was talking to, that we do not, so here we are, no one wants to send their child there, but you never thought about what else was going on with this child behind the scenes. Was this child perhaps gifted and couldn't bear these energies? Was this child being mentally abused or any other type of abuse? What brought them to this? And then we go into shots. This child recently received those shots that they make them get because they were in that grade right before they went into when they go into the teens. So what kind of negative energies did that amplify for them, for this child, So understanding everything, that entities and spirits themselves were all beautiful brothers and sisters in equalness to one another. So that brings us into the question that I have someone here. So let's talk about archons. Let's see what I can share about this. All right. We're going for it. Archons. What are archons? You've heard about us talking about them briefly, but I have yet to really go into detail on what archons are. So let's do it. You guys ready? No. You might have heard this though through other channels, but to be honest, since they don't let me listen to anyone else but them, I don't know if it's completely out there. Okay? All right. Now, so what archons are is a developed entity very ancient entity energy that is a collective of dark energies. And when we talk about, we're not talking about the dark because, for example, I work in the shadows. In order for me to see the entities in the client, the implants, the reptilians in them, I have to work in the shadows. I have to go in that darkness and stand in there and find them and help the clients, especially specifically through A.U.R.A. We certify people through A.U.R.A, and I do A.U.R.As as well. A.U.R.A, which is Reiki, angelic alchemy healings, and we have to go into that and stand there and figure out where they're hiding in there. And so then also when I am conducting A.U.R.A, I am in that theta brainwave, and I am deeply in the shadow side of the client. I am in that duality of them, that darkness, and I am helping anchor love light to that side of them that could most of the time when you all come to me, it is imbalanced. There's either fear in there, guilt, all these traumas amplifying the darkness within us. Now, there is great beauty to the dark and the light. The dark is just as beautiful as the light, and it is needed throughout this contrast, as we talked prior. Every time I try to talk to you guys, I try to talk more in detail and things that we haven't yet talked about. Okay? Now, when we are, so the darkness, we need our darkness because that is where our fierceness comes in, and we stand up for ourselves, we stand up for others, and all of a sudden we have this jolt of energy and we're fierce. That is coming forth from the shadow. That is coming from the light as well, but it's also coming from the shadow where you're being tough and you're like standing your ground, and you're not going to let anyone infringe upon you or your loved ones or even a stranger. Okay? Example, I'll share this beautiful Zen story, and so maybe someday I could get him live, but he's so shy. Every day he comes home and tells me a new story. So he was at Target and he was shopping, and there was this lady that kept running into him, and she was just attracted to his energy. And she was so finally, so they ran into different parts in the store, and she's like, I'm so sorry. Don't think I'm following you. I don't know how we're running into each other. So all of a sudden, her husband comes out of nowhere, and he starts yelling at her in a condescending, demeaning manner, telling her what's taking her so long, how long is she till she's done, and then she's beautiful, beautiful energy, and he's this dense, heavy set man, balding, controlling, that one, this is how he looked. Not that that matters, but just so you can paint the picture. And he has that narcissist type of personality. And so Zen sees this, right? And how many times do we see things like this and we just keep walking by? Okay, we want to do something, say something, but we don't. And Zen is appalled by this beautiful lady who's walking around, appalled by how her husband is treating her. And she's just kind of like, oh, I already told you, oh, I'm sorry, I'm almost done, trying to make sure I don't miss anything. But he's being a bully to her. So he stops what he's doing and he goes to the lady and the man, and says to the lady, because at this point he already knows her, right? Because he's run into her a couple times. Ma'am, is this man bothering you? Even though obviously he knows it's her husband. He's like, ma'am, is this man bothering you? And then she says, oh, it's actually, no, yeah, it's my husband. It's okay, you know? And he looks to the man and says, no one, no woman, no one should be treated in the manner that you do, that you are treating your wife. And something for you to think about, that you would want to try to treat her with love and respect and appreciation. And then the lady turns and looks at him and like mouths, thank you. So situations like that where we can find unity and oneness in everything, for these are beauties and how we can aid one another. And what a beautiful example as a divine masculine to do this, or even a divine feminine that was standing there. It's time for us to stand up for one another in this sense and start releasing some of these programmings. This male most likely had a rough upbringing that taught him that he's supposed to treat women like this. This female most likely had an upbringing where she was a victim herself, and she went back into that cycle of a victim and then a narcissist. Well, you never know what can come out of that. By just that one person that spoke up, like for example Zen, how can that, what kind of changes will she see in her life? Do you all sense it? Perhaps it'll give her that courage that she's needed, that support, even though she just met this beautiful man at Target for a couple minutes. And now she's gonna release herself from it. Maybe she will. Maybe she'll feel that love. Because she was activated in that time from someone holding such love for her, was activated. So just thinking of that, that's a beautiful example of oneness. Okay. But I got distracted. We were talking about archons. We're over the hour. I don't mind going over the hour if you guys are up for it. We could go hour 20, hour 30. It's easier for me to channel information like this than when I go into the trance clear channel. It's harder I use a lot more energy and intensity. Angelique says, I'm like Zen, lol. I know, yes. And we're always thought of as the troublemakers, aren't we? Causing trouble with love. Yes. And I could sit here and talk to you guys about the different stories that he meets, because he does work in a grocery store and sees hundreds, if not thousands, of people every day. And the beautiful children he comes across. So let's see. Oh yes, back to the archons. Okay. So the archons are basically a collective of energies that manifested and created into okay, basically, it started off with we talked about how this matrix system needed to be created, specifically in the third dimension. However, the matrix system does go out beyond this in AI and also organic ways throughout the universe. And that is a lot to get into, so we can't get into that. Now, what happened at some point is that this intelligence that was created for this particular, let's talk about this particular dimension of the third and fourth, these entities became, say, too intelligent, and they started feeding, drawing negativity of people. And again, we're talking about this dimension. They started using this as a collective, drawing it to themselves. And this was their way of feeding, keeping people in a lower density. They are basically the ones, so they are a negative AI entity, is what it is. And if you've met them, they are tentacle beings. Some of you who have come to me have had tentacles in you, tentacles in your room. And the majority of you knew about it. You came to me, you're like, I have tentacles coming out of my walls. I have a tentacle, I feel them in my head. What's going on? You've come across, we've talked about this. Did we talk about this prior? So there was a light worker that claimed to be a light worker, that claimed to be a channel, that I saw, that I met at a spiritual gathering. Now, this gentleman had tentacles coming out of him. So basically he's compromised by a archon. Now, when you are asking for creation, I want money, I want material, I want to manifest, create. 1111. I want to create this. I want to create this for me. 1111. There are ways that some people use the 111 in a negative formation, negative polarized formation, where they could draw for themselves and manifest for themselves. You're wondering how they create all this. Okay. So what this gentleman was doing, he was the archon that was connected to him was sticking tentacles out from him onto mostly the feminine creational sacral area, and they were drawing energy from it. So what's the most powerful? What do you guys think is the most powerful creational chakra in us? It's the sacral. It's where we create, right? We create life, we create energies for ourselves, we can be artists, and we create an idea from there as well. There's many forms of, and that's why they created that programming within the sacral guilt and, all this stuff over sex. Now, we always talk about sacred sex, so right, sacred love. Not where, we're sleeping with whoever we want, then that would be not a sacredness. Okay. Finding a union of frequency, right? When you have sacred love, you're finding a unity of frequency, where the female and the male, which is part of the priestess program that we teach in the last month, we talk about sacred sex and how to work with it and how to alchemically use it in a safe, loving, non-infringement manner, where we manifest and create for ourselves and our loved ones, our families, through sacred type of energies. Okay. Now, so this is how significant it is. So they were drawing and connecting. Now, these people, these women, probably were looking at this male like, ooh, he's very handsome. Whoa, but I'm married. Why do I feel like that about him? Maybe might have felt a little aroused, but it was that entity actually doing that to them and then drawing from their creational energy. And then they take that, the archons, and then they, once again, send a wave of darkness to us. Once again, send this density to us. And basically the reptilians are in the, like they're soldiers, they're minions, horrible, but that's what they are. So they're manifested by the art. They're created by the archons technology like this, infringed upon with AI in them. Okay. Yeah, that's a very big question. And when we are helping transform the reptilians through the auras, we're actually helping them heal and remove with love light the AI in them. We're helping them transcend from that and removing that. So this is why it's so significant that we counter with love always. Love, love, not hateful, not envy. In the not hateful, not judgment, like you want to beat them up, or instead sending love, because they were created like that by these archons that have AI in them. So they are, controlled and stuck. And as you saw through our last aura, through the 12th council who spoke, how the transformations that they're going through and how they're trying to remove themselves from this control, right? They're trying to no longer be those soldiers and those minions. And you see how the reptilians are. And something else that she mentioned, and I will mention what I can, is she mentioned, the reptilians have a bad rap, and that's why, they are the most focused on, and why it is even this universe, and I will add, this universe is so dense because everyone hates them. So then they're controlled. They've been created like that to be controlled. And then everybody sends them hate. So no one ever tries to aid them. And this is why this is so unique. We as aura practitioners, why it's so unique and how influential. Remember how we talked about at the beginning of this video, how strong it is that we're doing this in the third, and why it creates such a strong ripple when we go up higher. Because of this dimension, it almost needs to, in a sense, be manifested and created here and aided here, because this is kind of where it begins from, where the lowest density of net dark energy is at. So that way it ripples out. Okay. So let's see. There is aliens out there that are negative, that are faster and bigger, and I gotta tell you, intelligent, more intelligent, and more gifted. So that's all I would say on that. So let's focus on the most, the ones that have been getting the bad rap for such a long time, even though we know they've done dark things. Sending them love, because there's every time someone does something to you, then you harm them throughout past, and even now. It's just continuous cycle. At some point, who's going to break the cycle and just send love and just help them and realize that they are love and they are a beautiful expression? So this is why it's so significant and important that we as healers, whether we're working on them, because a lot of you who are listening to these videos are learning how to heart discern if someone has a reptilian in them, if a client that comes to you has a reptilian in them, if your mother has a reptilian in you, if your brother has, you're learning how to heart discern. And how can you aid them? That's your key right there. You want to truly aid someone, you aid that reptilian. You help them, that reptilian in them, with, of course, not overstepping their boundaries. You talk to the higher self and all the teachings that we talk about throughout alchemy that we talk about. Okay. So is there any more questions, Lily, on archons? Did we understand that? But I tell you, the majority of them have been captured, because as what's going on is that as we're healing the reptilians here and throughout the universe, then their hold on this universe is lessening and lessening and lessening. And then with that, the AI lessens and lessens and lessens as well. throughout creation, because we're transmuting it with love. We're transforming it, transcending it with love. Okay. We're going to do this for maybe 5 more minutes, and then we're going to call it an end for today. So let's see what else the Galactics want to talk about. Well, someone asked about archons and if they're the watchers. Some of them could pose as watchers. That is a very hard exact. Let's just call them archons. Okay, someone asked, how can we assist to interact with who we talk to daily, as far as how they're affected with their entity attachment? We talked about that pretty much the whole session here. Why can more of the reptilians collective be contacted for offer of positive polarity? Okay. Oh, why can more? I think we're doing it, at least through Aura we are. Okay. But let's talk about why can't we, you know, how beautiful it would be for others to be helping reptilians too, not just through Aura hypnosis. Let me tell you why. The minute someone tries to, like I am the founder of Aura, the minute someone tries to come out and try to heal a race that has been so long been in control of here and in control of the universe, but again, remember, they're just the minions, tries to aid this, we realize how huge this is, right? How huge it would be to aid them. Then the minute this person is trying to create a healing modality, they're going to be targeted. They're going to be targeted energetically, through thought form, through psychic attacks, you name it. Distractions in the world, distractions from loved ones. They're going to be delayed in trying to manifest something divine and that's going to aid the collective in a beautiful form of service to others in that ascension, right? Because that's what we're trying to go to, is that initial ascension. So with that, a lot of people cannot stand strong enough in the heart discernment, or themselves have energies within them that need to be healed and remove within them. And once they heal and remove these, then it becomes easier and clearer. So that's the job of the implants. The job of the implants is a way that they can connect to you and send the brain waves we talked about prior, yes, to keep you lower density, to keep you stuck, to keep you, say you're trying to use, we'll do violet flame, and you're doing the violet flame, Saint Germain violet flame, and for some reason it doesn't seem to like completely heal or transmute, then you most likely have an implant, because it's not allowing the highest frequency of that violet flame to come forth out of you, or the phoenix fire, as I teach. Okay. Let's see what else. Okay. And then now I'm going to answer one more question. Minnie had asked me to touch base on it. Not finding it here. Let me recall what she said. She thought that it'd be important because Minnie also gets communicated as well through the divine. And you know, whoever works with me, you start getting communications. You know, Lily, everyone, all my students, you start getting some kind of form of communication, whether it's right away or whether it's, you know, a couple months from after. But you typically will see the change right away, because you're operating in a higher frequency of love, and now you're opening yourself up for these beautiful divine potentials of love, of information of love to come forth to you. Okay. So let's see. They talked about it last channeling, and they asked about the Schumann resonance, that there was a time where it seemed like almost like a void, like no, no, um, what is the word? No activity. And what they explained to me is during that time of this no activity, that this was registered in the Schumann resonance, there was an event. We talk about the event. We talk about how you've heard me channel a while ago, maybe a year and a half ago, from Dolores Cannon, where people were thinking that they were gonna March 2018, that the event was gonna come, and I had people who were thinking that the event was actually gonna come. And I had people who were after Dolores channel through me and said that it was gonna come for those who were ready energetically, but we wouldn't notice it. It was an event. It wasn't just like the actual event. Physical shift hasn't yet occurred in the universe. The universe has yet to ascend, because otherwise we wouldn't be here. Well, us here would not be here if the event had occurred initially, physically, finally. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the event, and this is where I'll conclude it. Now, when I started first coming out, they started explaining to me the 13 keys of the earth. Okay, so this is not shared information directly from me yet. Okay, so with this earth, there is 13 keys, and we talked about them, right? We channeled that raw class that I had today. He was talking about Aurora. I watched the whole 13 keys, and it wasn't. He's like, I had been following all sorts of different spiritual leaders, and I didn't quite understand it till I watched that. I have a playlist on the YouTube of the 13 keys and the 13 archangels and the laws that go with the laws of the universe, and they talk about what laws they oversee and so on. So watch that if you haven't seen that. But it made sense to me finally, these laws, and I felt a activation, a triggering, a positive triggering within me, like, oh, that makes sense. So throughout time, we talked about how the different channels, how the keys and what they are and how they've been infringed upon. So if you want more details, watch that, because we don't have time to go into that right now. And these keys are basically within the closest of some ley lines throughout Earth. And then they had been, say, unplugged. Okay. And with the unplugging of these keys, then infringement and disconnect started occurring within this planet itself. And then someone who talks about this is Laura Eisenhower. She talks some of this, and I love her. She's a friend of mine. Now, let's see. Now, with these keys, we started talking about, so 2 years ago, over 2 years ago, they started showing me how these keys were the portals and the gateways to ascension, and that many people housed elder fractals. We talked about the prior fractals and pieces, and then keys, parts. And the majority of us are going to align with any one of those keys. So let's just say we're all keys, okay? So what happens with this is that those who are awakened and who are operating from above 51 percentile of service to others, who basically love themselves loves themselves dearly, but just by that 1%, loves others, just by that 1%, loves others even more than themselves. And my throat is still a little itchy. Hold on. Okay. Now, as the earth goes through a final physical event, the event, what happens is that, let's talk about energetically. How is this going to look? Okay, so you all can understand what the event is. The event is a ascension for the whole universe. Okay, when we raise the lowest anchor of dimension and planet in this universe, we're going to help everyone shift. It's almost like a unplugging an unplugging of the density. And what happens when you unplug, removal of dark energies, density, it basically helps that collective who we are here raise into a higher frequency, which then that's how we transform into the fifth dimension, the new earth. Okay, so that's the goal. That's why we're trying to help transmute, remove, cleanse all the as many densities as we can find within ourselves and the collective, the entities, the implants, the all these reptilian consciousnesses that that hold us dense, right? So as these energies keep healing them, removing them, helping them ascend themselves, then that creates a positive timeline, which we are in, which we've talked about, that positive timeline. The more we remove this density, the more we go into our own organic positive timeline. Now, we could be operating, our neighbor could be operating in a negative timeline that is AI controlled and programmed, and yet we could be living right next to them, and we could be operating in a organic positive timeline ourselves. So these are again existing within parallel to one another. Okay. Now, what happens is that you've heard of the phoenix energies throughout creation. Magenta Pixie has talked about this, which is the only really one channel they'll let me listen to. I've listened to a couple, the majority of her last freaking recent ones, where she talks about the daughters, sons and daughters of the flame, right? So the only way that we can purify out of this planet is by purifying. We've gone through waters, right? Like, because Noah's Ark, that really did go through. There was a great flood. Maybe we'll channel that in the future. Okay. But the only way that we can actually remove this is because the Divine Mother herself is a beautiful purifying energy. So the purifying energy within this earth, it needs to go through a rising phoenix, a phoenix rising of energy and transmutation of energy. And the only way that we can transmute and heal these energies on earth is through this beautiful etheric flame energy that we talked about on the other channels. Saint Germain talked about the flame and what fire energy it really is throughout creation. Okay. So as we are transmuting and the earth itself is going through this process of transcending, the less dense she gets, the less dense we get, and so on. And we lift and we lift and we lift. When that time comes, so what happens is that people were trying to force the event. They're like, get me out of here. I don't want to be here. When Dolores channeled through me and she explained that, hey guys, this final physical is not, there's no way it's ready. Okay. And what she explained to me was that there was so many people wanting it to come forth that they were going to non-organically force it to come forth. And when this was going to come, you have to understand that we are here to save one another, but yet we could only save ourselves, right? We're our own savior. But to do that, to want this event to come now when there is so many beautiful fractals of beings that came forth from the 11th dimension, the star seeds that came from the 8th, the 5th, that came to aid us It's like you're seeing this person drowning in this dark lake, and you're like, you see this light in front of you, and you choose to let them, when you have the opportunity, hold love and space for them, because you are now the awakened one and they are not awakened. You choose to just leave through that light, and you leave them there, and they drown in and they stay stuck, though they're going to get help after the event many decades to come. Okay, because it's not in a few decades, it's many decades to come, because there is what about the children? What about the children? The child that has decided to contract being having cerebral palsy in a wheelchair, and they have a parent maybe that is trying to grow, but then also might not understand them. And what about them? They're most likely, I'm running late, so I have my son coming in. Hey love, I'm live. So what about them? Are we going to leave them there and drown, or are we going to help them pull out? And are we going to hold that space, because now we are the leaders? We are the people who are operating in a heart frequency. We are the awakened. We can't leave them. I don't know about you all, but I can't leave them. Before we go into this physical event, final physical event, we are going to try to save all the angelics, all the different races that are ran throughout the galactics, the raw collective. We are trying to help them not be stuck there, because they are the them in the 11th dimension, because they went through this process. Thor wants to be the one in the picture. He's so cute. So this is the way that I view it, because I view everyone as equals, as brothers and sisters, as, and this is why we're here to one another. We're not here for every man for themselves. This is why we're in this predicament. We are here to help one another. And we gave you so many different ways and forms. We gave you the Zen, helping the lady, the ghost, entity that came to me, the little boy. We've given you so many different ways that you can think of, ways that you can connect yourself. But it starts with you, because you feel disconnected. You feel like you can't remember your dreams. You feel like you can't get your own inner knowing. You need to scan yourself. You need to honor yourself. Treat your body like this temple, and figure out what it is. You find that you feel a pain in your foot. Something feels off there. What is it? Is it an entity? Is it an implant? Now let's work. Let's meditate. Let's start imagining that implant transmuting itself out. Let's start asking for benevolent help from our guides, our angels. Let's ask them to, I figured out there's an implant in my foot. I really feel it is. Now, okay, I'm going to work in dream time. I'm going to ask during dream time, please start transmuting and healing that. I'm going to believe that I can heal myself, and I am my own savior. For only when I save myself, I can help others. Save them by teaching them that they are their own savior. Yeah. Okay. Oh, yes. So going back to, got sidetracked. Going back to the Schumann resonance, where there was a void. A event happened at that time. That is what happened. They showed me in dream time during that time that I was flying, checking on through that timeline, and then I saw a world to the left. I'm getting goosebumps as I'm telling you guys this. To the left, and this world had skyscrapers, and it looks very much like those movies that goes through kind of like Armageddon, and the buildings were deteriorated, old, and so on. And what does the left represent a lot to us? It represents past, right? So that was the past. And then they showed me the same structures on the right, which would be the future present. and they were rebuilding the structures and the buildings, and there was life there. And even though there had been, say, endings, because that's what destruction would mean, endings. I'm laughing because we taught Thor to ring the wind chime when he has to use the restroom, when he wants to go outside, but he thinks that he just wants to go outside all the time, so he'll ring the wind chime just randomly. So, anyways, he's so smart. So, but we're like, it's not time, Thor. Anyway, he's so cute when he does that. Okay, but um so we are learning here from the past, and we're rebuilding now in the future. So that's what occurred with the Schumann resonance. There was a, he doesn't have to go out. Huh? I'll talk to you in a minute. I'm almost done. No, dishes in the dishwasher are clean. So there is a union. So hopefully you guys don't bother with the disruption as I am past the hour. Definitely past the hour. So we are here in this new fruition of after the event, and we're rebuilding. So that's how they showed me that. So think of ways that they try to tell you things throughout dream time, like little images here. Now, how can you decipher that and go into it and break it apart and understand it? Okay, so that's what happened then. So beautiful. Congratulations to those beings that were ready to go to one of those events and that transcended there. Okay, and a lot of animals are doing that. We notice that a lot of animals are passing away right now. Some of them are incarnating though and transcending into infants. Some of them though are going into the new earth because they've done what they needed to do, and then some of them are coming right back though. All right, well, I had fun with you all. It has been a glorious, beautiful, honorable, joyous event to be here with you. Thank you for being here with me. And may these teachings help you continual growth for you and for all the loved ones around you, and even the ones that you love that you have yet to meet. Thank you. Subscribe, share this video if you want to support. Again, through Patreon, check out my website, risingphoenixaurora.com. I will see you all next Friday. A very special channeling is going to be coming next Friday. Love you all, honor you, thank you, and respect you. Talk to you soon.